Hello everyone, Quincy Cat here, and we have a really fun video for you all today. We're diving into all of the twins add-ons. We're going to break down what they all do with some little demonstrations. We have a tier list as well, so you can understand which ones are the best, which ones are the worst. And then we have 5 different build options for you, ranking from my most fun that I run every day, my daily driver build, all the way down to some memey ones that I think are just really fun to just sort of enjoy and kick back and relax with twins on as well. And we'll cap it off with some perks to actively avoid that you can't really use too well with twins. So a bunch of information here, bit of a long video, so let's go ahead and just jump right in. Now let's go ahead and talk about the twins add-ons. They're not the best, they're a bit of a mixed bag, and you'll find that you probably only end up using 2 or 3 of them if you stick with them for a long period of time. But let's go ahead and walk through them. Start off with the toy sword. This will be a staple for you throughout your time as a twins player. It decreases the pounce charge time by 0.2 seconds. That may not sound like a whole heck of a lot, but every 0.1 second counts in the world of twins. This actually feels a lot better. And just quality of life wise, everything feels so much better with Toy Sword on, and it'll be really essential on some loops. Moving on, Tiny Fingernail. This decreases the Victor's unbind time by 0.5 seconds. This is how long it takes for him to come out of Charlotte. For him to be deployed. This can be pretty useful if you're out of better add-ons. Like, this is definitely one worth using, but it's definitely not as good as some of your other options, but still fun. Throw it in the mix sometimes. Soured Milk. This increases Victor's alert range by 2 meters. Completely useless. Doesn't really help too much. This is basically how far he can detect people with killer instincts when he's idle. Ideally, you never have him idle like that, and that just won't be a thing. So don't use this. Cat Figurine. This displays the target location of a pounce, as you'll see on the demonstration here. This doesn't actually show you where Victor's going to land at all. It's a good, I don't know, 3 or 4 meters off, I would say. Doesn't really help much, and also it doesn't show you where it's going to like project the pounce until the pounce is fully charged. So it's often really difficult for me when I've tried to use it, even just goofing around, to understand like when it's going to kick into gear. It feels like the information comes way too late. For an add-on that's supposed to help new players, it's really disappointing that this one does so poorly. That aside, never use it, you'll be fine. Madeline's Glove. This increases Victor's alert range by 4 meters, much like the Soured Milk. It just adds another 2 meters onto that. Completely useless. Don't bother with this. You'd rather run Toy Sword instead. This ceremonial candle. Oh, geez, that word. Let's move past it. This increases the time to crush Victor when he is dormant by 0.2 seconds. Kind of useful, I guess. This may help you switch back to Victor in time to interrupt a kick. Maybe you hit somebody with Charlotte. It's so situational. It's very unlikely this will ever provide any value. Cat's Eye is not too terribly useful unless you're trying to do the achievement to hit pounces from far away. That's helpful in that case because Victor goes completely silent when you have a pounce charged. Problem is, when you have a pounce charged, Victor only moves 2.4 meters per second. So pretty slow, so you have to walk it from far away to actually get value out of this. People are likely just going to see you and it's not going to get any value. But if you need to hit pounces from far away, you can throw this on and then sneak up on people on gens and get some good pounces. Outside of that sort of really situational sort of memey scenario, not very useful. Bloody Black Hood. Decreases Charlotte's waking time by 0.5 seconds. This is if you're switching back to Charlotte from Victor. That can be kind of useful. It's not terribly problematic or anything, but you won't notice it for the most part. Usually just doesn't come in super handy. Throw it on, try it every once in a while. It's a fun one to try, but you won't find yourself using it terribly often. Baby Teeth. Crushing Victor when attached inflicts blindness for 30 seconds. Usually if somebody's crushed Victor, I'm not that nearby. It's going to take me 10 to 15 seconds just to get over there. I won't know if blindness impacted their day at all. So for that reason, I don't really care that much for this one. It could probably be useful, but you're going to get 3 or 4 Victor crushes per game maybe. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Then we have Weighty Rattle. Crushing Victor when attached inflicts broken for 20 seconds. This would be helpful if it was anytime Victor was destroyed by a survivor. That might actually be kind of interesting, since it's only when crushing when attached. It just adds 20 seconds from when they crush Victor on the ground from the attached state. So they're probably far away from you and they're injured. It's very situational. You're unlikely to ever get value out of this one. Stale Biscuit, however, definitely going to get some value out of this. Decreases the pounce cooldown by 0.4 seconds. That is definitely the difference between somebody kicking you after a miss or after a successful pounce too. This will make a big difference. It will save you getting crushed. It is hard to take off some of the more staple add-ons, but this one is worth running every once in a while, and especially if you're new to twins, I would highly recommend it because you're going to miss pounces and getting kicked is kind of frustrating early on. So this will save you from getting kicked a lot. Definitely give it a shot early on, and wean yourself off of it as you go along. Sewer Sludge increases the time to crush Victor by 2 seconds when he's attached. This just means it takes 2 seconds longer for me to get Victor back after he's attached to somebody. This is actively harmful to you as a Twins player. Don't run this. Stop it. It doesn't help at all. Rusted Needle, crushing Victor when attached inflicts hemorrhage until healed. This is kind of like applies like a little bit of a sloppy butcher to them. Kind of useful. Usually not too handy. I would rather just run a stronger add-on than this, but you might get some situational use out of it. Not too harmful to run. Give it a shot every once in a while. Now we're getting to some of the good stuff though. Madeline's Scarf. This increases Victor's movement speed by 0.3 meters per second. I'm going to put up a display here in a moment of all the different speeds that you could be running around as with Victor, so you can get an idea of what it looks like with Madeline's Scarf and with the other add-ons that we're about to talk about shortly too. So this one increases speed by 0.3 meters per second. Always nice to go fast in this game. Speed is a huge differentiator in Dead by Daylight. This is a useful add-on. Victor's Soldier. Crushing Victor while he is dormant reveals the survivor's aura for 6 seconds. Typically I know where Victor was. I just had Killer Instinct from them walking up to him, and then he gets crushed. I guess the 6 seconds of aura reading will help me have an idea of where they're gonna go after the crush. I've never found this to be terribly useful. Usually if Victor's getting crushed, it means I'm in a chase with someone else most of the time. So it's just information I didn't need to begin with, but give it a shot every once in a while. It is a fun add-on to use. You will get some value out of it here and there. So it's not terrible, but it is situational, and I don't think it deserves to be purple. If this was a yellow or a green add-on and it was like 3 or 4 seconds of aura reading, I think it would be a much more useful add-on. But otherwise, bit memey. Spinning Top. When Victor's pounce hits somebody, they will drop their item. Kind of like little mini Franklins just for Victor. Kind of useful. Their items won't deplete after they drop them. I think it's kind of memey and kind of fun in that regard. It usually catches people off guard a little bit. And you can kind of do sort of like the Franklin's Hag game as well, where you can make someone drop their item and then park Victor on top of it, and then they're gonna come back for that item. It's going to happen. They always come back. So you can use that to kind of get the pounce on them, if you will. So keep that in mind. It's kind of fun for that, and it is legitimately useful. So it's fun one to run every once in a while. Forest Stew. This one I consider to be a staple. It increases Victor's movement speed by 0.6 meters per second. You can combine this with Madeline's Scarf and go just about a whole meter per second faster than you used to be able to. That's a huge difference. I usually don't run both of them, but running one or the other is always useful. I pretty much never go without one of them, unless I'm running some sort of gimmicky build or something like that. The speed is just too useful, and it's also it's just pure fun. Going fast in this game is fun, right? So that goes for survivors and killers. Like, it's just a good time to go fast. So this one will be a staple. Drop of Perfume. Survivors in Victor's alert range while he is dormant are inflicted with Oblivious. Just run Hex Plaything. It seems so much easier and has better value. This just doesn't get a whole lot of use in my opinion. This means you have to leave Victor dormant somewhere, and then survivors will be oblivious. They'll immediately know that they're oblivious for some reason. They'll still hear Victor's little sounds and whatnot too, so they're just gonna kick Victor quicker. Yeah, outside of gimmicky builds where maybe you're trying to get the drop on somebody kicking Victor, it's not terribly useful. Silencing Cloth. This one's pretty fun. It's a memey one for sure. Both our eerie ones are unfortunately a little memey more than useful. But Charlotte gains undetectable for 20 seconds after waking from her dormant states. That can be pretty wild. 20 seconds of undetectable just for switching between Victor and Charlotte on demand anytime you want to it has some fun ways to be used. You can kind of park Victor somewhere, maybe park him in front of a Devour Hope totem, and then wander off with Charlotte, and anytime you switch back to Victor and then switch back to Charlotte, she's undetectable again for 20 seconds. I've gotten grabs off generators with twins before thanks to this. It's goofy, it's fun, but survivors will catch on to it more often than not. So and at the end of the day, you're still just an undetectable basic attack killer when you're Charlotte. So not always the strongest, but it can be fun. And if you mix Silencing Cloth with Iridescent Pendant, you can do some fun things there too. Crushing Victor while he's dormant inflicts exposed for 45 seconds. So in those situations, like you look back over to Charlotte, now she's undetectable, somebody kicks Victor. There you go, you have an exposed hit pretty quick there all of a sudden. It can be really fun to run the double Eries with Devour Hope. Other than that, I don't find a lot of use out of running Iridescent Pendant by itself. You can get some opportunities here where people will crush Victor and you'll get an exposed hit, but it's generally pretty rare, and you're just better off and safer with just running Toy Sword and Forest Stew. But definitely recommend giving the Eries a try sometimes because they are fun, if not gimmicky. Alright, to help recap the Twins add-ons, I put together a little tier list. As you see, not a lot of the add-ons I actually list are useful or even all that good. We're going to start with the positives here. Toy Sword, absolutely vital, and Forest Stew, essential. Run these two as often as you can. They're going to provide a ton of value in every single game. They're always useful. You're never going to be disappointed about bringing them. So charging up pounces quicker, running faster, speed is essential in DBD. They're always going to come in clutch, so bring them if you can. If you run out of those, Forest Stew's expensive. Battle and Scarf is a really good backup. And also the Tiny Fingernail, which decreases the Victor Unbind time, really useful as well too if you're running out of toy swords, stuff like that. Otherwise, Spinning Top, Steel Biscuit, they're going to provide value as well too. They're good add-ons, they're just not as good as your other options. After you get beyond that, you get really into situational and just kind of fun add-ons. The Eries can provide a lot of fun, but they're not necessarily going to be good game in and game out, and they're really expensive too. And then you get below that into stuff like Cat's Figurine, which is just actively harmful. So don't use that ever, really. It's just going to throw you astray of where your pounces should actually go. So that's the Twins add-ons in a nutshell. Quick tier list for y'all there. I hope this proves useful. Now let's go ahead and dive into some build options next. Let's talk about Twins builds. We're going to start off with my absolute favorite build, the one that I run most often when I'm playing Twins. The add-ons, they'll rarely change. Toy Sword and Forest Stew, as we discussed earlier. Perks, Coup de Grace. This gives you 2 tokens every time a generator is completed, up to 5 tokens, and then when you consume a token, it increases the distance of your next lunge by 80%. That's a huge amount. You will get some absolutely wacky hits with this sometimes. It's a lot of fun, and you need to get basic attack hits in with Twins. When you get that first basic attack in, then you can deploy Victor, get that down, really get some pressure rolling. So this comes in really, really handy on Twins in particular, and it's a very comfortable perk. Next up is Deerstalker, which will let us see any survivors who are on the ground within 36 meters. This is especially funny lately, considering how popular Plot Twist has become. You get some free downs just thanks to running this perk. But more importantly, I often forget where my downs are, and when I switch back to Charlotte, it can be difficult sometimes with all the action going on. You're keeping track of gens and where Victor is and where Charlotte is. Sometimes where my slugs are eludes me. This helps me find them quicker, make sure I don't lose any downs that way. Also helps me minimize how much I slug in general. I find that if I take this off, I end up slugging out a lot more. So in some ways, I'm helping survivors, really, if you think about it. Okay, no one's going to believe that, but still, it's a very comfortable quality of life perk. I recommend it. We of course have Scourge Hook Pain Resonance. With twins, you're always kind of fighting the clock. You don't have time to kick gens. I also personally hate kicking gens. So this is one way for us to regress gens without actually having to bother kicking them. We can throw them up on Scourge Hooks. There'll be 4 of them throughout the map. And that will regress 1 gen that's the most progressed by 25%. You get 1 token per person, so you only get to use this 4 times. Because of that, it can be a little situational and a little difficult to use sometimes. There will be some games where you just don't get to use this perk at all. That can be pretty frustrating, but it's so valuable. If you think about it, if you get all 4 uses, you basically make the survivors do a whole extra generator. So, invaluable. And last but not least, Lethal Pursuer. This will give us the ability to see all survivors at the start of the trial for 9 seconds. If we were running any other aura perks, it would also increase the duration of those by 2 seconds. We're not. But with twins, I really want to get off to a quick start. That lets me not have to run as much gen regression and stuff like that. If I can get into a chase immediately at the start of a game, that means I'm probably going to have pressure throughout the rest of the game too. So, absolutely essential in my opinion. Other people like to really run Corrupt Intervention in place of this. That is absolutely a valid opinion. I prefer Lethal. Lets me get into the action quicker. Next build, probably my second most used one, is pretty similar. Shares a couple perks from the first build, of course. We still have Coup de Grace in here. Gonna extend our lunges. And we still have Pain Res to regress our generators. But throwing in 2 other perks into the mix here. First up is Forced Hesitation. When a survivor is put into the dying state by any means, all survivors standing within a 16-meter range around them suffer the hindered status for 10 seconds. That reduces their movement speed by 20%. It is absolutely wild how much this slows them down, and it also actually works with Victor. A lot of perks don't work with Victor. He doesn't get to use Nurse's Calling and stuff like that, but this is one that he can trigger with his pounce, and then if a survivor is trying to kick Victor after a successful pounce and you're backing up and trying to get away, they probably will not kick you. This will save you from getting kicked multiple times. This will also allow you to generate quick snowballs since other survivors nearby will be injured and you can go and pounce on them next. Maybe you can get 2 or 3 downs at once with this if you have a few injuries. How are we going to get those injuries? Forced Penance is going to help out a lot. Survivors who take a protection hit are inflicted with the broken status for 80 seconds. It's a very, very long time in DBD. So for 80 seconds, they cannot be healed if they take a protection hit. This means that you hit them near someone else who is injured or down. More often than not, it's when it's someone that's down. So they're trying to pick up someone that you've downed with Victor, and you hit them right as they get the other person up. Now that person's broken. Other person's up, but now we have 2 injuries. So then we can use stuff like Forced Hesitation, kind of get snowballs rolling here. So this will help you keep people injured. I find this is a lot better for me than Sloppy Butcher is. Sloppy Butcher is really helpful for keeping people injured as well, but Victor can't apply Sloppy Butcher. Victor can apply Forced Penance though. So worth keeping in mind. Third build, pretty strong. Once again, we're going to be running Toy Sword and Forest Stew. You could obviously throw in Scarf, or if you don't have any of these, like Fingernail is always useful. But we're going to run Corrupt Intervention to give us time in the early game. This will lock up the 3 gens furthest away from us. So I'll lock them up for a whole 120 seconds. If we down someone before that 120 seconds is up, then we do lose Corrupt Intervention. I always say a down is worth it. So if we get to hook someone in the first 2 minutes of the game, we're already in a good spot. Things are going in our favor. It's fine. So we have Sloppy Butcher. This will allow us to keep people injured because it will make them hemorrhage and mangled. So this will increase the rate at which healing progression is lost from hemorrhage by 25%. These are both removed when the survivor is fully healed, of course. So it's useful. It does eat up medkits pretty well, stuff like that. So worthwhile to run. It's also a common perk, so everyone gets to have this one. So throw it in the mix, definitely worthwhile. But remember, it only gets applied by basic attacks, which means Charlotte has to apply this. Next up we have Deadlock. After a generator is repaired, the entity blocks the generator with the most progress for 30 seconds. This means we do not have to go kicking generators, but we can still buy ourselves some time. So this will buy us extra 30 seconds on a very progressed gen, and it'll light up as well, so we'll know where survivors are. It'll give us a little bit of info in that way, while also allowing us to buy some time. Very, very useful. We don't have to kick gens. Love this one. Next up, we have No Way Out. This will buy us more time at the end of the game. For each survivor that we hook, we get a stack. Each stack adds 12 seconds to No Way Out. That's how long the doors will be blocked at the end game. So it'll add quite a bit of time for them to have to wait before they can actually open the doors. This will let you do some nonsense with Victor and Charlotte and cause as much mayhem as humanly possible. Usually, this will get you another kill in the end game. You'd be surprised how often this absolutely just serves you up on a silver platter for another down or another kill. If it's already down to 2 or 3 survivors, you're almost guaranteed to turn the tide in your favor here and get the 3 or 4K. So always a winner. And this perk is good on every killer. So if you don't have No Way Out already, like, I recommend trying to get it one way or another. Now let's get into a couple of goofy and fun builds. First up, we have this one, which is a totally hex-based build. If you want to, I don't usually like playing map offerings, but it is fun to go to Leary's with this just because it's a nightmare to find totems, and we're going to try to be a little sneaky at times. We have our iridescent pendant, which means if people crush Victor, they'll be exposed for 45 seconds. And we also have our silencing cloth, which means when we switch to Charlotte, we'll be undetectable for 20 seconds. So this will sneak up on people throughout the map, and also with this we can protect the totem. So first up we have Hex Ruin. This is pretty strong still. I think people crap on it more than they should really. It will annoy survivors, and that will cause them to go off on a little side objective hunt to go find Ruin. This can be pretty handy for us because we're going to turn it into a Pentimento totem later, which is actually stronger than Ruin. So consider it a little bit of bait. Then we have Undying, which is going to protect our totems and be an extra little thing for the survivors to deal with. They're going to be chasing totems. That's fine for us, and it will become another Pentimento totem for us later. Then we also have Devour Hope. This is absolutely good fun. I think it's always a delight to have around. And twins have 2 Moris, one with Victor and one without. So if you can get a 4 stack of Moris, it's always a good time. I think it's, worth seeing both of them. Also, this is what we're going to try to protect with Victor. Obviously, we have a bunch of totems, so we're not going to really know which one Devour is, but we're going to park Victor in front of one of those, and if people kick him, we're going to be able to sneak up on them pretty quickly and down them with Charlotte before they can actually destroy the totem. That is kind of the gimmicky game plan here, the goofiness, if you will. You might call it fishing. We're throwing out some bait of a totem. We're putting Victor in front of it. He gets kicked. We come up undetectable and smack him upside the head before they can actually finish cleansing the totem. So that's kind of the idea. And if it all goes wrong, well, we're going to get a bunch of Pentimento stacks. We're going to regress slow the gens up a bunch. We're also going to be able to keep their healing speed slow. And who knows, maybe we'll get all 5 stacks. Really, really unlikely. But what I usually like to do with this is just keep one lit, because I really just want to regress or slow down the repair speed of generators. And then light the other ones as they cleanse the Pentimentos on me. That's usually how I would leverage this, so it'll buy as much time as possible, and then we can keep kind of switching back and forth between Charlotte and Victor to get undetectable hits and also exposed hits. Very fun, goofy build. You'll have a lot of laughs. It'll be a good time. Some survivors will catch on to it pretty quick, kind of like if you've ever ran Demogorgon Devour Hope builds. It's a very similar sort of setup to that. Some survivors will catch on, others won't, and you'll have a good time. Even the ones that do, you'll probably still get them. Up next, we have a delightful endgame build. Generators can go kind of fast against twins sometimes, so this can be a fun little thing to work with to set yourself up well for the endgame. We of course have our friend Hex, No One Escapes Death. Survivors be exposed in the endgame and you'll be 4% faster. That's pretty nice. Although there is a lot of hope out there these days where survivors are pretty speedy. I still think this comes in handy. You're going to at least get one down with it most of the time. Not quite as strong as it used to be. Pretty fair, I think, at this point. So your totem's going to get cleansed, but you're going to get at least one down and some extra in-game pressure. We have No Way Out, which is going to give us more time to leverage that Noed. So this will just block the door for longer, give us more time to get a hit in somewhere and cause some problems. Terminus means that everyone's going to be broken the second that last gen is completed, and they will remain broken until the exit gates are open. Survivors are going to 99 doors, they always do. So this will force them to open the door if in some situations, which is always interesting because sometimes they'll open doors when somebody's on a hook. Now they're against the clock, creates some interesting scenarios. I love the sort of mayhem this perk introduces into the endgame collapse. Causes extra new decisions that people don't have to think about a lot in most cases. And when you have No Ed and No Way Out in the mix too, it's just absolute mayhem and it's good fun. A lot of times with this build, like, games can completely get away from you, but you're gonna have fun in the end game. To help us buy some time though, we're gonna run Deadlock so that we'll slow the gens up as much as possible and keep that end game at bay for a little bit longer and try to get some hooks and some pressure. Mostly what we want to do is we want to make sure that everyone is injured when that last gen is popped. That way we're going to be able to go around with Terminus causing everyone to be broken, and we can cause a whole bunch of problems. And if people aren't broken, then we can hit them with Noed. But ideally we're set up for a situation where Victor can cause a bunch of chaos in the end game, and if not, we have Noed. And that pretty much sums up my favorite builds for twins. I would recommend more than anything, please experiment. There are a lot. All right, we've covered builds that we prefer, some of our favorite perks with twins. Now let's dive into some perks that we want to make sure that we actively avoid. They kind of break down in a couple different types of perks. Mostly aura reading and terror radius based perks are always going to be a problem for twins. Good candidate here is a Nurse's Calling. If two people are healing within 28 meters of you, you can see them healing. You can see them through walls, you see their auras. This only works when you're Charlotte. If you're Victor, you will not see these auras. So this is a perk that you just lose out on a good chunk of the time. Another one would be Jolt. Putting a survivor into the dying state with a basic attack causes all generators within a 32-meter radius to explode. You're probably going to be downing people with Victor, not with Charlotte, so you're not going to get a lot of usage out of Jolt here. Try to run stuff that involves kicking gens instead, or hooking on Scourge hooks like Pain Resonance. That's going to be a lot better value than you're going to get out of Jolt. You might want to consider Eruption, even though you're not going to get the aura reading value out of it, but steer clear of Jolt. I'm All Ears, another aura-based one. People are probably going to be vaulting windows when you're Victor, not when you're Charlotte. Also, I'm All Ears is kind of a rough perk in general, but you're really not going to get value out of it with twins. So dodge this one and try to dodge other aura reading perks that you don't actively activate as Charlotte. And then we have Infectious Fright. Survivors within your terror radius will scream when you down someone. If you down someone with Victor, this isn't going to do anything. So another case here, kind of like Jolt, where downing people kind of needs to happen with Charlotte instead of Victor in order for the perk to work. So dodge these type of perks. Try to use stuff that you only will activate when you're in Charlotte's mode, and that you're going to get more value out of. So stuff like Barbecue is really useful, where Floods of Rage is really bad for you. Keep that in mind. And that pretty much sums up all the builds and perks with twins. Obviously, I always recommend experimenting as much as possible out there. You never know when your next favorite build will come upon you. So tinker, play around, but hopefully these builds guide you towards the perks that will provide the most value for you when you're out there as twins. And until next time, hope your games are good, your queues are short. Good luck, have friends out there, folks.